Howdy folks, I'm Rebecca Jolly the Jolly Alchemist, appearing to you in my native element as an experiment. I told you I was a wild experimenter, and this is an experiment in opening up my videos to be about more than the transits. Yeah, they're about the transits, but they need to be more. I don't understand. I've been trying all these ways, experimenting with all these things. Those of you who have been here with me have seen me shifting to this and that and the other. And if you've been sensitive to it, you've been seeing also that none of it is quite making me happy. I'm not finding the niche where I can be myself fully and also teach others about the basics of human design, but also life and what it is to be human. And so I've I loved the idea of giving a video in the tub for a long time. I think I've said in the transits that I'm for a long, long time a nudist, so I don't care. It's just a body, it's just meat, it's no big deal. Um, what else led here? What else led here was I had a talk with a friend today, and that friend said, "Oh, your new bathroom is so wonderful. It's not like brand new, but my partner finished this maybe, I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago." And I'm just a huge water and bath person. I chased hot springs for years when I was homeless. So water is very important to me. And this tub I've been waiting for almost a decade. So of course I spend a lot of time in it. And my friend said, "Oh, well, we've been talking for a couple of hours now. You're probably getting all wrinkly and tired of being in the tub." And I was like, not even close. And one of the things that he pointed out in the little tour that I gave him in the bathroom is that over here, I guess I can show it to you, right there, there is a little door in the wall that when pulled out, it becomes a chair so that somebody can sit there and talk with me. And he said kind of jokingly, "Oh yeah, you can do your videos from the bathroom while you're taking a bath, and you can interview somebody while they're in the chair." And I thought, absolutely, if somebody wants to come and sit in the chair, they can absolutely be interviewed, and we can talk human design and life, metaphysics, quantum physics, all the things. But okay, step by step. The thing that happened next that led me to here was I went yesterday out of my cave, hey, and went across the street to the free library and dropped off a bunch of books and picked up a few more and put them on the path to come upstairs here to the tub, because this is where I have the time to sit and look at books and figure out if they're something I want to keep or not. And I was immediately drawn to this one particular book, and it's a weird one, really, really weird, kind of an allegorical kind of thing. And it reminded me of when I found the book Housewife to Heretic by Sonia Johnson, which was the book that led me out of the church, the Mormon cult in which I had been born and raised, and how important that book felt while I was reading it. This book felt similarly important. I haven't even gotten through it. I couldn't, because at some point I got in the story and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to speak now, even if this recording doesn't actually turn into a video that would be posted. Still, I have to talk. I have to work out this nebulous idea that's in my brain out loud. And if it's going to be out loud, then it probably needs to be recorded in one way or another. And that's, of course, another thing that has greatly increased in my life in the last, I would say, 10 years, but certainly in the last 5 years, I've been asking more and more for recording devices, recording ability, recording tech, because more and more things are happening to me that are frigging bizarre. And if I don't have the ability to record them, nobody's gonna believe me. So I'm just like, I need this recorded so that it could be proof of this and nobody has to take my word for it. Because I tell you right now, I'm a big old liar and have lost credibility with everybody who ever mattered as far as that goes. And it's the nature of life. I'm human, I'm an experimenter. And that's just what's happened to me. But it's fine. It just means that I know that anything that I learn cannot stand on the weight of my own authority. And I wouldn't want it to. And so this book that I was reading, very allegorical, something about Mirdad. I'm like, okay. Something about a temple or a shrine or a monastery built at the top of a mountain that's like patterned after Noah's Ark, and about these 9 monks that lived there and how that whole system broke and like the story of the whole thing. I'm like, okay. It was weird and engaging enough that I thought, all right, and it's been very interesting actually, because I am a great collector of aphorisms. This is something that I have learned in my journey of explaining things to people, because what happens, I learned the hard way, is that when you have the channel of explanation, specifically when you have the channel of explanation as your top definition, you have the burden or the opportunity to be able to learn how to explain things. But that happens, it doesn't happen in a day. It's a lifetime's worth of practice. And luckily for me, the cult in which I was raised greatly valued public speaking. Kind of awesome how that worked out. And so I did learn early on and was supported in learning how to use my voice. Cool. So then it's just a matter of next steps and how to use it. So then the next thing became, how can I explain all the things that I don't understand? And I set off on the journey to discover basically everything, all right? Or at least the larger picture of everything. For example, I don't know everything about permaculture, but I know where to go to find out the things that I don't particularly personally know about permaculture. I know basics, but I'm not an expert in that. But I know I can find the experts when the subject moves in that direction. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. I don't know everything about math or physics, but I know how to find physicists and mathematicians. So at some point, I don't need to know that. I just need to know, what does math teach us? What does physics teach us? What are the syntheses of those ideas? What's really important about that? Because what's important about that is not 1 + 1 = 2 or sine, cosine, and tangent. Those aren't the important things. The important things are, how is math reflected in our everyday lives? How does math make us wiser about who we are and what our journeys here in these meat sacks are all about? So he's going on, and I've had, a bunch of topics swirling in my head for a long time. And I believe I talked about in the transit recently how my ideas have been these ongoing experiments that have been running for me in my mind. Like it was an inspiration about the nature of my 4th gate activation. And that, I don't have the chart behind me, but the 4th gate is coming out of the mind towards the crown And if you're looking at the Human Design chart, it's on the right side, and it heads up to gate 63, and it's about having ideas about how to fix things, about being willing to look like a fool in order to prove whatever idea came into your mind right or wrong. So that's what that's about. And I carry that activation unconsciously. It's in my top 4, which means it's very, very important to who I am. And so I talked about how all the things that I've ever wondered about in my whole entire life could be thought of as an experiment that I set in motion and then just let go in the back of my brain at some point until, like, very recently, when, and of course it's math again, it's a parabola. I was really dumb for a really, really long time, and then slowly, slowly started to get smarter, and now it's like, I don't know exactly where it is on that thing, but I definitely feel myself getting smarter faster, is the point of it. And that's kind of what happens to seekers in general. At least that seems to be the case, because that's what I see over and over again in other seekers and others who are on the same path that I seem to be on. And I have found a few people who are heading in the same direction, and they have, slightly different journeys, but we're all really heading the same place at some point. So anyway, all these questions and different experiments that I've had running, I started to make connections between them and see that, oh, okay, when it comes down to it, there's actually less and less of them, because all these issues over here that I thought were unconnected to issues over here are actually connected. So then they can come back together. It's like putting together the pieces of a puzzle. You're just doing one and one, and then all of a sudden you see that, oh, these two goes to these two, and you have a glob of 4. And then, your globs get bigger and bigger until you just have a couple of globs wandering around inside the framework. Yeah, that. So I noticed that my globs were getting much, much bigger, and I was starting to understand many, many more things. And then it becomes a matter of, how do I explain them? So it turns out I can explain them, but only if I'm given enough time. And who's willing to give me that much time? Well, I'll tell you right now, hardly anybody. And so then after that, after you learn how to expand and fan out to be able to explain all the intricacies, then you have to learn how to compress and to be able to bring those truths into smaller and smaller pieces, which is why I have begun for years now, at least 5 years, maybe more, collecting aphorisms, phrases that carry truth that's so basic that kind of everybody has to agree on it. Like, for example, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Or let's see, there's a bunch of them. A penny saved is a penny earned. Or 2 swallows does not a summer make. There's a ton of them. Anyway, and they're things where, like, we've heard them or heard something like them. As above, so below is a good one. And so that when the argument comes down to that point, everyone can agree, okay, that's common ground. That's basic wisdom. That's something that's coming out of being human, right? So then the job becomes, how can I make everything as small as possible so that I can explain it? It's kind of like how if you go to visit a guru, a hermit on the hill, and he's living in a little cave, and you go and you ask him one of the questions of life, and he says 42. And then you have to figure out what 42 means, because 42 is its own little puzzle. And that's actually a beautiful little example given to us from, what is it? Douglas. Douglas Adams, I believe his name was. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Anyway, Or like going to see the oracle at Delphi, she would say something that would seem to be a koan, Koan, or a little puzzle, something that you really have to spend a lot of time thinking about in order to be able to understand the full truthfulness of it. Before enlightenment, carry water. After enlightenment, carry water. Things like that. And this book that I've been reading, I am going a place, I'm not just wandering, has told a story which is fairly obviously allegorical, at least that's what it seems like, in talking about this whole thing with Noah's Ark and whatever. Okay, so long story short, I don't need to tell the details of the story. And that is that we have somebody who has served in the capacity of a silent servant, one who should have been immediately accepted as a companion, has instead been forced is not the word, but has accepted 7 years of silent servitude instead of the companionship which was his right. And then at the end of it, they invite him, and that's, of course, in human design terms, a very important concept. And also for those who carry the 4323, that's a very important concept because that channel is a projector or a coordinator channel and therefore must work by invitation. Speaking of which, the invitation that I have from you is that if you clicked on this rant of mine or seeming rant, then you have in that clicking and in that listening invited me to speak. So, me speaking on a video that somebody can turn off at any time they want to is much better than going out on the street and assaulting people. I have to take a break right now because something's happening with the tech in my phone and I don't know what that is, so I'll be right back. Okay, folks, so I'm back. After a bit of an adventure, we've had some exciting things happening around here tonight, but that is not the subject of this video. So maybe later I will tell this very interesting story. The subject of it is, in a roundabout way, the transits. And this particular transit, which is looking at the last version of the the right angle cross of the Sphinx, line 4. So, line 4 in gates 1 and gates 2. And those have to do with keeping secrets and being alone. Aloneness as the medium for creativity. So, those are generally the mission of the day and what we're looking at. And we also have the juxtaposition cross of self-expression. And it does lead in a roundabout way to me doing this video right here because, well, as you can tell, I've already done the research for today's topic. But when I sat to actually give the video, which is many times easy once I've done the research, I found it to be difficult and undoable, and that's part of the greater problem. And I am working my way around to where I was before. I'm not going to forget that. I know that sometimes it seems like I'm wandering, but I'm getting to a specific place. And that specific place has to do with the larger question that I've been really wrangling with for maybe a month now, of how can I make these videos more me and less dry. I totally understand that the subject of the transits is kind of a dry one, even for people to whom the transits should be very important, namely observers or reflectors. But I also know that there are a few people, there's a small number of people who get what it is that I'm doing, and they're tracking the transits with me, and that's all cool and good, very nice. And it is my partially my concern for those people that has kept me posting these daily transits even when I don't really feel like it. And that's my problem, because I have to find a way to do exactly what I want to do. I have to find a way, and we all do on some level. I have to find a way to make what I really want to do be the thing that I am doing. So first you have to find the thing that you really want to do, and Humun Design is very helpful for that. Through that, I have learned that explaining things is what I want to do. I want to sit on my fat ass, I'm joking, but sit on my happy Buddha butt and explain things to people who don't understand things. And I think the world has plenty of people who don't understand things, right? So it's just a matter of meeting the message with the market. Yeah? And YouTube provides a wonderful platform for the message that I am trying to get out, because it allows for short form and long form videos at the same time. Whereas as I'm moving into things like, what is the one I just started on? Instagram. And we've also talked about moving into Facebook for the older crowd. And of course, maybe TikTok. I don't know. I don't really know the difference between these things yet. So, I mean, I know what Facebook is, and I've just barely begun to see, but I don't really know what the difference is between TikTok and Instagram, for instance, because they seem to me to be both places where you're doing something very short. That's all I really get. And it's a place for a lot of scrolling. Okay. So anyway, but I do have a problem with short explanations, as I was just explaining in the first part of this video, and how in order to do that I have to go to aphorisms. So I could start making videos about aphorisms. There's an idea. But there has to also be a place where I can say the explanations in a more expanded form, so that people who don't want to just ponder on some phrase that seems mystical or obscure in the beginning can get some assistance with the problems of their particular lives. Not everybody wants to go talk to a guru on the hill and get a puzzle in response to the answer to their questions. Some people would like a little more fluff, and that's what I'm for, giving fluff. But the fluff has to be done properly. This experiment with the transits and the daily looking at the energies of the world is my experiment. It's not necessarily your experiment or anyone else's experiment. And I've pointed out more than once that anybody who truly wants to look at the transits could just go get a free account at 64 Keys and look at those damn transits all by yourself. You don't need me. You can push your finger on the numbers just like I do and get exactly what those mean. And then, of course, yeah, it's going to be harder to find the longer explanations of what the daily missions are, or say what the planets mean, or what the positions in the transits mean. But on 64 Keys, they even tell you that. They tell you this is the mission, and these are the people energies, and these are the larger direction of the world energies, and this is how it goes with the energy of your body in particular. So my explanation skills, it's like, it's interesting to notice patterns there, but it's not something that anybody really needs me for, and my particular genius, if you want to call it that. Now, I am also getting ready, and I might as well announce it here, to start doing live streams. And in doing live streams, people will be able to interact with me in real time and give me their information. They can just give me their initials with it if they want to, if they're worried about, sharing their birth information. Although I can tell you, it's not going anywhere. We're just bringing up the chart and looking at the chart and seeing, okay, do you have questions about you know, your life, what's jacking you up, or I can tell you what's going on in your life or what's jacking you up or likely to be jacking you up. Because the whole thing of human design is giving us a nice, easy hack to see once you understand the system, which is not nice and easy to learn. But once you do understand the system, then you can see fairly easily what are the things that are likely to be causing this person stress in their life, and what are some good advices for directions they can go and insights that can be specific to help them with exactly what it is that they might be going through at this particular time in their life or over the course of their whole entire life. So there is that. And part of why I have been struggling with the transits, I have explained in that there's something boring about it. There's something that, as much as I'm trying to make it kind of fun or cute, those are like, it's frosting. It's not the real thing. And I had an insight while I was reading this bizarre book that came out of the free library, that I have a feeling is a very important book for me in my situation, but seems like probably for anybody else it would be like too weird and kind of, maybe, I don't know, it depends on where you are, maybe you would love it, but very allegorical for sure. And part of the problem is that when I do, like, okay, let me explain it this way. I've been studying human design already in a very focused and intense and intentional way for almost 5 years. Somewhere in there, between 4.5 and 5, but over half of what Ra said the first deconditioning cycle was needing to be. And who knows if that's a real thing, it doesn't matter. But it's definitely been a while. Enough that I would have been able to have gotten in any university at least 1 or 2 degrees. So it's a lot of study I've been doing. And then in this year, when I have committed to tracking the transits every day, it's given me an opportunity to go back yet again and learn everything just a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper at every step of the way as I'm going through both the Line Companion and the Incarnation Cross Index to support what I'm learning about the transits. And that's why I started sharing, because I started to realize, oh shit, okay, this is information that that others might be interested to know, and also it might be interesting for others to be able to see over the long term the course of my progress, because I can be an example for other people in saying, look, I made all these mistakes getting here. You don't have to make those mistakes as well. You can see me right in the thick of my process when I was still struggling with all these issues that regular old people struggle with, and then how I overcame them, how I finished that evolution into being somebody whose life works easy for them, somebody who doesn't have to struggle for money anymore, somebody who can basically spend their life doing whatever it is that they want to do. And I have a very special kind of situation, I think, in which I'm being supported in the experiment of this thing in order to be able to get to the place where theoretically I could be making enough money that I could cross the globe whenever I want to, or help other people whenever I want to. I've said before that it's one of my larger goals to have a big old bucket of money by my front door. And anybody who comes to see me, if they feel like they need some of that paper stuff, well, you go ahead and grab you a handful on the way out. But swinging back around to the other problem, or another facet of the problem of the transits, and that is that sometimes I don't have the full understanding of the lines right away when I'm doing the research. It would be like the next day or over the next couple of days that the wisdom from that piece would be truly striking me and coming in on the depth of a level and being uh, set to me in a way that I could explain it better to you. And then I am spending a lot of time going, well, shit, man, I wish I could have said that in the transit that was for that. But now we got another day piling on and another day and another day. And it's just like, okay, well, it's like I need 2 days time for each day in order for the things to be happening rightly. And that's kind of what I experienced today. The subject of the first and the second gates or hexagrams is such a deep one and so really pivotal to the whole entire subject of human design, because you've got the whole G center, which is kind of a mystery because it's not one of the normal chakras, so it's not like the root. Everybody can kind of understand the root. Yeah. Well, we've seen the root, or those of us who know anything about these subjects, generally speaking, we understand the root chakra. We understand the throat chakra, the heart chakra. Okay, fine. But it's my opinion, and I don't know that I've actually heard anybody else actually say this, but the way I understand it is that the heart chakra in 1781, when we had the upgrade from 7 to 9, the heart chakra split. And what we have now is basically two heart chakras. Even though a lot of people, if you say, well, what's the heart chakra now? They will say, oh, that's the ego and willpower center, where we have gate 21, control. I could bring my cheat sheet up here so as to have things to refer to. Oh, well. All good things in all good time. Gate 21. So gate 21 is going up to the throat through the money-making channel of 2145, and then you have gate 51, which is shock, and it leads to gate 25 on the G center. So you're talking about a pioneering spirit or initiation. And then you have the 40, which is what I call the bacon bringer, the real desire to bring resources into the community, or the love of work, connecting to friendliness in that channel of community and marriage and all that kind of stuff, father and mother, the family business. And then we have the 26th, the great taming power, which leads all the way over, it looks kind of like behind the other things, over to the spleen, where we have 44, which we just went through recently in the transits, talking about the nature of understanding situational awareness, understanding people and where they fit in organizations, and how to manage people so that they get into organizations. So what I'm trying to say is all the things that are involved in that center are really what I call the hard heart. You gotta have heart, you gotta have will, you gotta have force, you gotta have power, you're struggling, you're controlling, you're biting, you're going out and doing things, and very, very powerful kinds of things. And then by way of contrast, when we get to the G center, we're talking about gates that are all about soft, fluffy love, or looking forward, looking backward, loving this, loving that, and then gates 1 and 2. Pure, strong, yang, full 6 solid line creativity, and pure receptivity, magnetism, allowing. So we have the initiator and we have the receiver. We have the manifester and we have the generator. It's like the center, the heart of the whole entire system is contained within gates 1 and 2. And then when you start to actually really deep dive into 1 and 2, then he starts saying, yeah, and they're basically the same thing. And it's just like, Jesus, how am I supposed to friggin' figure out what the difference is? Because they're obviously different. They're not the same thing, but they're very they're similar, they're related, they're really essential to what it means to be a human. and so deep that even after having studied this for years and years and read once again, I mean, I've read the definitions and all the lines for gates 1 and 2 multiple times before, read them again, and still didn't feel like I was ready to be teaching what I learned about it. And it's in studying this nature of truly what it means to be creative, because to some extent it's a very important part of being a human to be creative, to create, not just to exist in the world, not just to watch the world from the passenger's position, but it's a desire to create. It's this desire that we have at a certain point in our lives. It seems like it's a universal stage for all of us to at some point be concerned with a legacy. What am I leaving behind? What have I created? What have I actually changed in the world by existing in it and eating other things that were alive? You know, what's that sacrifice been worth in my life? And that's really the essential question of what we're talking about in gates 1 and 2. And then, of course, when we get to line 4, we're talking about the nature of creativity being that creation happens alone. And the reason it happens alone is because if you're not alone to do your creating, then somebody on the outside is going to be fucking with it. Somebody on the outside is going to be messing with it, poking with it, trying to guide it, trying to bring it out, trying to see it, trying to interact with it, and then it can't be. That's part of exactly what he's talking about in the 4th line, that you have in gate 1, line 4, your creative person really needing to understand how the relationship with aloneness forms the basis of their creativity. And he talks about how the danger in that area is for someone who spends a lot of time alone writing a book, say, for example, and then they go out and they spend their time marketing the book. And they spend all the rest of their lives marketing the book and no longer actually being creative, because they want to be influential on the other, on the outside. And in the attempt to be influential, as a 4th line being wants to be, they actually leave behind what made them successful, that creativity in the first place. Or the other way that they can go is that they will write their book or their magnum opus, whatever, and then they spend the rest of their life churning out things on the same pattern, but not truly being creative. So it's about the awareness that for true creativity, one has to have periods of retreat and being alone and having secrets so that those things can fully form themselves and come to the world as something that has the potential for newness or growth, or the ideal, mutation, which is change. Changing the world in some actual physical, not physical necessarily, but seeable, knowable way. And I'm kind of like not stuck, but stymied on a point here, because I'm not exactly sure. And the farther I go and the finer my my discoveries get about the exact time of my birth, the more I begin to doubt myself and wonder, well, when some magical day, if I happen to find out exactly what time I was born, will I be proved right or wrong? Well, I'm pretty damn sure that I'm a manifesting generator and not a straight generator. But when it comes down to deciding whether my activation is in gate 1, line 1, so that would be pure creation, foundational creation, or the one before, like I said, which I think it is, but I'm not exactly sure because of the nature of the 6th line and the 1st line in the next gate, right? Looking over the wall. I think I might be 44, line 6, which is, we just talked about that, aloofness, being above it. Yeah, so really able to find the ego on the other side to get things done, but not really interested in it anymore, which is why perhaps I was so focused in my life on being creative, being an artist, making things, creating things, and not really understanding how or why I was interested in other people. So there's a small amount of question in my mind, especially considering how deeply I resonate to first gate themes and first line themes in the first gate. So it's difficult. But it means that I haven't really been comfortable giving these transits for the first and second gates because I haven't been feeling like I'm getting some essential element. And that's where I come around to this book, because I just picked this book up out of the free library yesterday, and the free library is, for me, a little bit of a magical place because I find things there that seem to have been left just for me. Like, who else would really be interested in some of these things? It's weird. But then I'm used to weird things happening for a long, long time to me, and it's way too complicated to explain. But it's something that I struggle with alone, for sure, because nobody else really seems to care. So then, okay, it's my problem until I can find enough proof that the weird shit that's happening is not just coincidental. So anyway, I came to this book. I'm reading this allegory, and this guy who's supposed to be, this massive intellect, this mystic, this wise man who's been basically silent for 7 years. He's been invited to speak by the other 8 monks, and now he's giving them basically all of his wisdom in one big fell swoop. Yeah? And one of the very first things that he says is about the creative word. And I was like, oh, the word of creation, or the creative word? Yeah, the creative word in capital letters. See? So I thought, well, that's very interesting, kind of relevant. I'll look at what that is. And so then I turn the page and I see that he thinks the creative word is I. Interesting. All kinds of things come to mind immediately, like in religions where they ask, God for what his name is, and he says, I am. That's deep. And also sacred geometry comes to mind from the ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And what he's doing in that book is, as far as I can tell, truly explaining the nature of sacred geometry, like what's really behind it. I've been interested in the subject of sacred geometry for a long time, and perhaps this is a subject for another day because perhaps nobody wants to listen to it, but I'll at least start on the path of discussing it, maybe. And so anyway, because it is about this whole first and second gate, being creative, and what does it mean to have a driver, and to be looking at directions and for directions. So it's so deeply connected to so many like really base foundational issues.
Who are we? How did we begin? Why are we here? What are we doing here? That kind of thing. So that's really what sacred geometry is talking about. And I've been interested in the subject of sacred geometry for quite some time, and I've noticed that it's become a kind of a fad, a subject, but it seems to be a subject about which people have interest but not very much actual knowledge. The mathematical based pictures of sacred geometry have now gained more, more, they're becoming more widespread, they're becoming known, they're becoming accepted. People are seeing these shapes now and understanding, oh yeah, that's sacred geometry. But they don't understand exactly how or exactly why. And that's where the ancient secret of the flower of life comes in handy, because it does go into the absolute detail and explain that it's about the nature of consciousness, about the nature of I. And so it's really, it's touching me so deeply. It's almost heavy. It's so deep. The awareness on so many fronts at the same time, of so many levels and layers of this knowledge. I almost despair of being able to explain it, because I can barely understand all the myriad and shiny facets of it. It's like a Merkaba, another sacred geometry shape, which is really fascinating and hard to understand, because it doesn't move the way it looks like it should move, and it doesn't look like the way it should look, and it doesn't act like the way it should act. Yeah, so much more about that. Golly, where to end, where to begin? But this is what's going on in my mind. It's really a deepening and a widening based around the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, and what it truly means to be I versus what it means to be other or to be you. And I know that anyone who's watched this video this long is interested on some level in me, what is the me that's sitting here in a bathtub, as well as how I might be saying could be influential or useful to you, the person who sat here and watched all this silly rambling, and your own process and your own growth and your own sensitivities to the energy of the world, which is on some level what we're looking at in the transits. How sensitive can you become to the energy that's out there in the days? So it's a big complicated mess, and on one level I have to apologize for really breaking the continuity of what's been happening every day, but on another level I must be true to me over you. Yeah? As much as I care about the people who are interested in what I'm interested in and following what I'm saying, I have to choose me first. And first of all, it's about putting on my own oxygen mask. It's about insisting on a moment-to-moment basis, like a generator can and should, on following my sacral authority. And if I don't want to make that video, then it means that there's something wrong with the video. And I have to find what's wrong with that, because I am not wrong. And it's about forgiving myself for not doing the dishes or cleaning my house, and valuing myself in what could seem to be a very selfish way over that. But I've done my time. I've cleaned houses. I've been a servant. I've been a slave. That's not where the joy of life is. It's in some part of this bizarre journey that really nobody understands. Not even my partner, who I've been living with for almost 12 years and talking to pretty much all of my waking hours for almost all of that time. So we've been having a very deep intellectual conversation for over a decade. That's way more than people usually talk to their partners. And even he doesn't totally get what's going on with me. So on some levels, I am truly an individual. I'm really alone. And yet, I completely see the lines connecting me to other people. And what it is that makes me human, just like every other human. Just wanting to be okay and happy like every other human. Whether it's wanting to be successful or satisfied or peaceful or interested and surprised by the world. Yeah, I want all of it, and yet the way that I'm going about getting it is not anything I've seen anyone else ever do before. In fact, I'm pretty sure that no human design specialist has ever given a video in their bathtub and said, "Follow me." It's ridiculous. Oh my goodness. And yet I feel more myself in this bathtub without my tools, without my wand, without my numbers than I have before. I want to be here doing this. I actually want to be giving this video. So even if it's weird, even if it's off-putting, it's something for me. It's a record of my journey. And maybe tomorrow I can show the entry and the song, and you know, I was going to talk about Hedy Lamarr. I love Hedy Lamarr. Maybe tomorrow, maybe another day. I don't know. All good things another time. Maybe I'll just have to do a whole nother year of transits and cover it again that way. But in order to do that, I have to find a way to give the transits that makes me happy every day, that makes me want to be here every day and not see giving a daily video as a struggle. So that's my struggle. So here I am in it, experimenting, willing to do just about anything to figure out how to get to the right place for myself, and thereby to be able to explain to others how to get to their right place. So there it is. And even if no one watches, that's okay, because it's for me a record of here I am, there I was, that's what I was struggling with, that's what I was discovering. And if anybody wants to see the proof of it or follow along behind, there it is. So until tomorrow, when we'll look at the fifth line, and that will be moving past the juxtaposition cross of self-expression, where the underlying energy switches from 7 and 13 to 4 and 49, which is getting ready for my cross. And so we'll look at the left angle cross of defiance next. Line 5 in 1 and 2 and 4 and 49. So until tomorrow, ciao.